All right, so let me just continue before we take more questions. Let's continue. So this is it. Let's move on. We have tilt angle. We are proceeding. Let's move to tilt angle. Now the tilt angle is a PV array. Of a PV array is the key to an optimum energy use. All right. Now solar panels or PV array are most efficient array degree that is lying flat. Now let me just give you this gist. The best way to lie your panel is to lie it flat. All right, so that you can have it facing the equator. And once you have that, then you can have more energy use. All right, but lying your panel flat is not ideal, because when you lie it flat, dirt will come upon it, and you keep doing maintenance every day. So it is not sustainable. So that's the reason why we tilt our panel. All right. And how do you know the angle that you tilt your panel? Don't stretch yourself. There is a formula. There is a site that you will go. Research is going on every day. All right. So we have sites that you go to that you will see the tilt. Just type the location there. Then they will tell you the tilt angle of that location. So that's where you go with. Now I'm going to show you one now. Let's just go to one. Let me go to footprint here. Let me see. Okay, let me just copy it. So this is it here. I already have it here for you. You can see it now. Footprinthero.com. So let me just go there. Footprinthero.com. So let's see something. Oh, sorry, Footprint Hero. So when you go there, just type the name of it. So we are going to the site now. I hope you can see my screen. I hope you can see my
screen.
Can you see my
screen?
Yes, sir. All right, good. So you come down. This site is very, very important as well. You can see, you can do it. But like I keep telling you, don't allow all these softwares to decide for you. It's best for you to know what you are doing. So you can see this is where we are coming. Solar panel tilt angle calculator. So let's just click on it. Once you click on it, then let's see what we are going to have. Let's see what we are going to have. It's still loading. Don't allow all these sites. Don't allow any software to decide for you. Know what you are doing, then you can just make use of them as a guide. All right, so it's coming. While it is loading, let's just continue. Network is crazy. All right, so let's just continue so that I won't waste time. So this is it. So when you type in, when you go to the site, type in the location, then everything will come out. Now I'm sure you also by now you should be able to know how to get longitude and latitude. When you visit the site, I'm sure you know that we have from your phone. You should be able to know your longitude and latitude. I'm sure we all know that. How do you know your longitude and latitude from your phone? I'm sure you can do that. Good. You should be able to do that. How will I size? I'm coming. How will I size for a central if I'm to use your guide? I don't understand this question. How will I size for a central? How do you mean by a central? Okay, so you can see mine is up now. Sorry?
For example, if I mean that if I want to size, for example, let's say a commercial utility of 40 megawatt, of course I need to do with software, isn't it?
Of course, now, yeah, sure.
So you say that don't use those softwares to. Oh, okay.
No, I'm not saying you shouldn't use software. Okay. I'm only saying you shouldn't allow the software to direct you. If you are using software, you should know what you are. See, a lot of people use PVCs, but if you tell them now, come and explain what you've done, I'm sure a lot of people cannot do it. A lot of people use NOSCO, but they don't know what each parameters is there. You understand? So I'm not saying you shouldn't use software. Software is very, very good. You should use it, but you shouldn't allow it to be guiding you. Like, for example, now if I'm going to use PVCs now, all right. Now let me give you let me open my PVCs now. This is my PVCs now. I want to show you something. It's coming up so that you see what I'm telling you about. I won't allow my PVCs to be dictating for me. No, I won't allow it. I should know what I'm doing. All right. So that is what I'm talking. I'm using the PVCs, but let me be the one to tell PVCs this is what I want, not PVCs telling me no. I'm sure you know that for PVCs there are defaults. They will tell you defaults. So when you click on it, you are allowing the PVCs to direct you. But if you already have the instinct that no, from this solar panel now, this is what the panel manufacturer is saying about their module, then I have to go with what. So, but if you don't know what the module manufacturer is saying, you just be, the panel will just be, you just be following the module blindly. All right. So that is what I don't want, and that is what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying you don't.
Oh, okay. I got you now. Okay.
Now let me give you instances. Now look at this. Now, can you see my PVCs? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So now my PVCs is loading. Now I want to bring in a new project. No, not this one. I want to bring in a new project. Let me go to this. All right. So now let me just bring in any sites. Let me bring in any geos. Let me bring in any sites. I want to tell you what it is. Now, let me just choose anyone. Okay. Now, all right. Now, of course, I should have used a particular, maybe you visited the site already, you already know, or any other. I've used my website, maybe Footprint Hero, or I've visited the site to know what the tutor, or they've given me I'm sure for roof mount. For roof mount, the business owner can send you their structural design. All right. So from the structural design, you can know what their tilt angle is. So now let me just assume 10. All right. Now let me come to this system. This is where I'm actually going to. Let me come to this system. Now the system, you can see plant. I don't need to use this site. I'm not, I can't use, I'm not supposed to use this site. I'm sure you know that. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
Well, if you already know, if you do this, if you tick this side now, you put any parameters here now, that means that you want PVCs to direct you, but you don't need to. It's not a must that you use plant. It's not a must that you use plant. You already know what the module. In fact, I don't need to use all these modules that are here. All right, I don't need to use all these modules that are here now. I need to for example, I want to use Jinko Solar. All right, I already know the module that I want to use. I already know the data sheet of that module that I want to use. I can request for the PAN file of that module from the ORM directly. So when they send me the PAN file, I will add the PAN file to this. So once I add it, I will just go from the manufacturer and select the PAN file I'll select the module. The reason why I'm requesting for the PAN file is that all the parameters that I need is already on the PAN file, which is not here. I'm sure you all know that we are using a cracked version, and from the cracked version, you might not have the latest module specification. But if you need the latest module specification, request the PAN file from the OEM directly. So once they give it to you, add it to this. Then once I do that, also for the inverter that I'm using, I can request for the power file. I will also add it. Then for the series, I already know the series connection. I will put it here already. I can do the series to be 20 because I already know it. I already know what my string is. I'll put it there. If it is 600 strings, I'll put it there. Once you do that, then you click OK, you are good to go. You understand? The panel, you are not allowing PVCs to design for you. So that is what I'm just trying to let you know. Do you understand that? But don't worry about all this. Remember, we are still going to do all this. So let's not just rush. All right? So let's not just rush. So that is what I'm telling you. I'm not saying you shouldn't use your software. Use it, but don't allow the software to guide you. Be the one telling the software, this is what I want. All right? So now let's continue. So now we have our tilt. Once we have good network, I'll still refer back to it. So that is that for tilt angle. The same thing for orientation. Now you keep hearing what orientation. They will tell you that this system will not yield because it doesn't have a good orientation. When Emeka asked me about the Sterling Bank Tower, I'm using the BIPV. I told him that the orientation is not good. Then you're going to see the reason why I'm talking about orientation now. Now, orientation has to do with where your panel is facing. So we're going to see it now, orientation and azimuth. Now, azimuth is the angle that the solar panels are facing and is measured in a clockwise direction from the north. If you are, for example, now I'm sure you can see that we saw where we are asked to put the azimuth. Panels are facing and it is measured in a clockwise direction from the north. So you can see now, you can see from this image now, you can see the azimuth. So this is my north. I'm sure you know the cardinal points. You know the cardinal points. Let me just share it with you. You know the cardinal points that the right side, let me just do that. You know that the right side of the north is what is the east. So this is your cardinal point. This is your north and this is your south. The right side of your north is what is the east. And the left side of your north is what is the west. So this is it. Do you understand this? So once you know this, then you know that this is my north. So I'm moving in the clockwise direction. So if you're moving in the clockwise direction from the north, you pass through the west. Sorry, you pass through the north. Anti-clockwise is west. If you're moving clockwise direction, you pass through the north, through the west rather, down to the south. Can you see? Now, if you are in the southern hemisphere, the sun is in the northern sky, so the panel should face the north. So those in the southern hemisphere, the sun is in the northern sky, so your panel should face the north. If you are in the northern hemisphere, like Nigeria is in the northern hemisphere, the sun is in the southern sky, so our panel is facing the south. So to also know what your azimuth is, free to check panel azimuth angle, you will know what the azimuth angle of that location is. Then you face it. Do you understand what I'm saying? The orientation is not. The reason why this system might not yield is because the orientation is not. It's because, for example, now you've done your installation. Let me show you something. Let me go to map.com. I want to show you so that you'll be able to know what I'm talking about. My network is so bad. Network is so bad. All right, so now let's just continue. When I've opened it, I will still show it to you. Now, for example, now for roof mount now, the roof is already there already. So it's possible when you're going to when you're going to place your panel, the panel might be facing north, and you are in this, and the panel might be facing north, and you are in the southern hemisphere. So there is nothing you can do about it. It's going to count as a loss. Do you understand it? You have a roof already that the tilt angle is already 30. But when you check the platform, the footprint hero, you realize that the tilt angle should be 10. But the angle of your tilt angle of your roof is already 30. There is nothing you can do. You put it there, it will only count as loss. You understand? So that is the importance of your software. That's where your software comes in. Because when you simulate using your software will see the location, will be able to see that your panel is not facing the right angle, then it will be able to count it as loss. So you're going to see everything as loss. Radiation loss, you understand? So that is of your software. All right, so now let's proceed. Shadow analysis. Now, before we proceed, let me show analysis so that you of shadow. Let me show you so that you see the importance of shadow. Where is this? I'm coming. If you are doing any installation, if it is roof mount, it is very, very important for you to do shadow analysis. All right. So I'm going to show you something now. Then you will now be telling me that those that did this installation, are they sleeping when they were doing the installation or not? Let me just show it to you before we move to shadow analysis so that you understand what shadow is. Can you see my screen now? Can you see my screen?
No.
No.
Nothing is displaying.
Not yet. Nothing is displaying. I think it's coming up.
You can see it.
It's coming up.
Okay, it's coming up. Okay, let me just share it again. All right.
It's very clear.
Okay.
Something is coming.
All right. So now let me show you an installation that was done. This one is not like they fabricated it. Can you see it? Money wasted successfully. Can you see it? Can you see my installation? Can you see my screen? What can you see?
The skyscraper is blocking the solar panel. The skyscraper is blocking the solar panel, the sun to the solar panel, right?
So this is a bad and poor installation. Bad and poor installation. So nobody should. That's the reason why for you to do an installation, you need to do your shading analysis. Thank God for the softwares that we have now. Once you are able to model, the facility within once you're able to model the facility in your layout, once you do your analysis, once you do your shading analysis, then you are good to go. But what if the software is not available? Remember, I told you I love the manual. I want to talk about the manual method. Emmanuel, your hand is up. Ask your question. 30 seconds, please. Olufemi, your hand is up to 30 seconds. You guys should ask your question. All right, so now let's continue. If there's no question, let's just continue. All right, so now we have shading analysis. All right, so now let me just say this. I don't think we'll be able to finish this today because we still have a lot to do. I wouldn't want to take your question last week. I might extend it beyond 12 and stop at 1. So today's class, I will be stopping at 1. But to round this off, I will want to continue tomorrow. So if you will be available at the end of it tomorrow, right? So because we still have a lot. Remember, we're only still talking about the generation component, which is solar panel. We've not moved to charge controller. We've not moved to inverter. We've not moved to it and find today, which is solar panel. Then probably tomorrow we see the rest components. All right. So now let's move on with shadow analysis. Who is asking a question?
I have a quick question.
All right, Manuel, ask your question.
I said the teeth angle, does it vary? Is that what you're saying?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Teeth angle, does it vary with location with the help of the software? Teeth angle, does it vary? Okay, thank you.
You see, the tilt angle of Nigeria will definitely be different from the tilt angle of Egypt. You know, the tilt angle of Lagos will be different from the tilt angle of Kano. You understand? So it's different. All right, so now let's go. So shadow analysis is one of the very important steps in planning a PV array over a location, either rooftop or ground mount solar installation. Now, shadow will cause two important effects, which are lower generation outputs and damage the PV module by creating a hotspot. All right. Now, before I move on, I'm sure you must have been seeing some installation, especially those in Lagos. I mean, those in Nigeria. I'm sure you know what we have. One of the commercial bank in Nigeria here, which is Zenith Bank. I'm sure you know that they have a solar array that is powering their their ATM machines. I'm sure you must have been seeing something like that. Am I right? Those in Nigeria are talking. Am I right?
Yes, you are correct.
Right, good. So I'm sure some of you must have seen the installation and you'll be wondering that you'll be wondering that I'm sure that this building must be casting shadow on this installation. You might be right and you might not be right. All right. You might be right if shadow analysis was not conducted, and you might be wrong if shadow analysis was conducted and they decide, okay, this is where we want to put our shadow, our installation. Now, it is not. During shadow analysis, there are periods that we consider. All right, for me, you can consider 9 to 3, or you can consider 9 to 4, depending on the location. All right. Now, if you are considering 9 to 3, that's 9 a.m. to 3 a.m. Within those periods, the building might not be casting shadow on the panel. They must have done their shadow analysis and realized that within 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., there is no shading on the installation. All right. So once they do that, then they can go ahead and do the installation. But once they realize that within this period, within 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. or 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., there is a shadow on our installation, then they don't have to do the installation. So that's the reason why you see most installation, you see most high-rise building, besides it, you see some installation. Fine, they must have done shadow analysis and realize that they are good to go. But for those that didn't realize that they need to do their shadow analysis, is a money wasted, just like the one I just did for you. That they didn't do shadow analysis, they just went ahead and did the installation. So it's a money wasted project. All right. So now let's proceed. So shadow analysis, when you do shadow, shadow will lower generation output and damage the panel. You know, when you have shadow on your panel over a duration of time, it can lead to hot spots. All right. Hotspot is not good for panel. That means it makes that panel to become very, 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 very hot. All right, and that can even lead to fire outbreak. You understand? Now let's continue. Now, shadow length of an object depends on two main. So now just note this. If you are standing, all right, if you are standing and you are seeing your shadow, know that two factors are responsible for it. The sun in the sky, depending on the location that you are, and your height, those are the factors that are responsible for your shadow. All right. Now, formula to calculate the shadow length. This is the form. So for me to now calculate, I need to know what my shadow length is. Now, for example, now let me just do this.
The screen is not displaying.
Now let me assume that I have my screen is not displaying.
Yes.
Oh, I'm seeing your screen.
I'm seeing your screen.
My screen not displaying.
I'm seeing your screen.
All right, I think it's your network. Maybe you can log out and come in, but I think it's your network. Now, okay, now let me assume that I have this high-rise building. All right, I have this high-rise building. Then I have a space that I want to do my installation. So I want to install my panel here. Now, what will determine how far the shadow will go? What will determine how far the shadow will go is the height of this building and this location of the sun in the sky. That is what will determine how far the shadow will go. All right. So that is the reason why we need to consider what we call height of the building and this. I'm sure you know what this is. So that's the reason why you realize that we need to consider the angle, this angle here. So from this slide here now, can you see my slide back?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
All right. So that is the reason why we are calculating this formula. This formula is actually what we call tan. This is what we want to calculate. Height, shadow height. We have the shadow length, and we have this. So what we need here is just the angle. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. You have the height, this height. If I draw this like this, come, let me just bring a peak. Coming. Okay, so this is what I'm looking for. Now, if I draw this, Now, if I draw this to this, can you see? And I have this angle here. This is my angle theta. So what I need to calculate, what I need now is my angle. So that's where you have this formula. I have tan. Remember, what is this side? From Socatua, from your mathematics. If you've forgotten your mathematics, you need to go back there. So this is my opposite, and this is my what? This is my what? Adjacent. So you have tan theta, we give you opposite is what? My h over hypotenuse is the shadow length. So that means your height will now give you what? We give me tan theta L. That's L tan theta. So that's basically what we have here now. You understand? So where you have this. All right, so I'm coming. Let me proceed with this. Let me erase this. All right, so now let's proceed. So now, when you now have a taller object, now just note down this formula. Now, when you have a taller object in the eastern side of the proposed solar PV array location, when you have a taller object in the eastern side of proposed solar PV array location. So that will give us, we're going to have in the morning time and in the western direction. Now, if you are properly grounded in this system, as time goes in, you will know where you have your east, you know where you have your west. How many of you, without even checking your phone, without doing anything, how many of you know where your west is and where your east is? Can you identify your west or your east? I want to ask that question. Do you know, like, if you are moving, do you know where your west is? Do you know where your east is?
No,
From the coordinates.
Without even using coordinates. Now, this is what me I do. Now, let me just tell you this. This is what me I do.
you can use through your shadow.
No, I don't even know my shadow. I already know this is what me I do. Maybe you can even, maybe subconsciously, that is what I do. Once I'm moving and I realize that once I'm moving and I realize that, okay, this is, I'm still maybe in the morning, you understand? And I'm working in the morning, and maybe I'm just going in the morning, and I realize that the sun is hitting me directly, that I can't even see, I can't open my eyes. I know that I'm facing the east. Definitely that the right. So if I'm facing the east, I already know that my north is on the right hand, my south is on the west, and then the next, my back is automatically my west. Now, if I'm moving, maybe I'm maybe in it, maybe that scenario happen in the if already my west, my south or my south or my north. But if you don't know that, you can also check that from a map. Let me see my map. Can you see my map?
Yes, sir. Yes.
You can see my map, right?
I can't even see your screen.
You can see my screen, right?
I've been going, coming.
You can see it,
I
right?
can see it.
Now,
Yes. Pointer.
Can you see this pointer?
Yes.
I can see the pointer.
Now this part where you have the round part is where the round edge tip is facing is your south. So when you understand that, that means that the right side of this, that means all these people here, that means see my mouse, see where I'm hovering my mouse.
Yes.
Are you see where I'm moving my mouse? These people here, the house here is what is east. Why this side here is what is west. Do you understand that? So these are the tools that we make use of when we start doing our design. Don't worry, when we get to case study, I'm going to take you through all the now in west in the morning time and in the western direction. So that means that if you have a tall building, all right, if you have a tall building and you want to have your installation in the eastern side of that tall building, so that means that you are going to have that in the morning time and in the western direction. Don't worry, there's a formula. Now, if you have a taller building in the western side of the proposed PV location, what will happen? It will cast shadow in the evening time and in the eastern direction. This is what I'm talking about. You can see this is a building. What's the building? 8 meter. Another building is what? 5 meter. This is you want to build your solar in the, you want to put your installation in the western, so in this 5 meter building. So you can see this is your east. So you can see where the sun is. Can you see? So that means that this will cast shadow in the morning time and in the western direction. Can you see it? The next one is in the evening time. If you have shadow, if you have a tall building in the western direction, you have your another building where you want to put your solar installation. So what do you consider? You consider evening time and east direction. Don't worry about this. By the time we move, we are going to see a case study that you understand it better. Now, a solar building in the southern side of the proposed solar PV array location will cast shadow in the western direction in the morning and eastern direction in the evening. So this is what we have. You have the south here. You have your panel facing south, and you have a taller building at this position. So this is what you consider. Now let's now see the formulas before we see the case study. Let's see the formulas. Now, shadow creating object in the east-west direction is calculated as this is the formula shadow length. There are a lot of processes involved in this formula, but you don't need to know as the formula of this. So just know this formula. This is the shadow length formula. Now, if shadow creating object is on the east side of proposed solar PV array, like I mentioned, we are going to consider morning time azimuths and altitude angles. Morning time azimuth and altitude angles. We are going to see where we are going to get this. Now, if the shadow creating object is on the west side of proposed solar and altitude angles. So this is for east-west direction. Now for north-south direction, if so it's formula, this is the formula. The only difference is just for east-west you have sine, for north-south you have cos. We still have the same parameter as asking where do I get azimuth and altitude of my location. I'm going to show you. You get it from sites, which is sunposition.info. You don't need to stress yourself. All what you need to do is just to know where it is. Now, if shadow creating object is on north-south side of proposed solar PV array, you are going to consider both morning and evening time azimuth angle. This is just what we've explained here. But in this case, I didn't bring in azimuth or azimuth or altitude. So, but in this case now, this is it because we have the formula. Now, this is the formula. The azimuth and altitude angles for a particular location and time can be calculated using this formula. This is the formula. Now, let's see a case study. I'm doing just one. All right. We're going to do the other one. Building on another building on the east side of Abuja, which is Nigeria. The height of the high-rise building is 8 meters. Height of the proposed solar installed building is 5 meters. If the distance between two, now let me use this to explain. Well, let me just use this. Can you see these are money wasted projects? I want to just, can you see the money wasted projects? Let's use this as a scenario. Can you see it? Hello, can you see it?
Yes, sir. Yes, I'm seeing it.
All right, so let's use this as a scenario so that you will understand what we are talking about. Now, let's assume that the building height is what is 8 meters. All right, this building that they want to do, that they install this installation is 5 meters. Then you can see that there's a distance here. The distance here is 2 meters. I'm just bringing that example to this so that you will understand it better. All right, it's 5 meters. Then the distance between this high-rise building and this building that they have this installation is 2 meters. Do you understand this now? Do you understand this? So that by the time we are solving, you'll be able to picture it to this. Do you understand it? And this building is on the east side. It's on the east side. Now let's now go back to this. Let's go back to the formula. Let's go back to this. Now, okay. Now, the first step to calculate azimuth and altitude angles. That is the first step. Now, since the shadow casting object, which is the high-rise building, Now I'm sure you know the building I'm talking about. If I tell you building B and I tell you building A, I'm sure you know the building I'm talking about. Using these money wasted projects. You guys should talk now so that we know you are following. Even if we end it with this shadow analysis to be cool. Do you understand?
Let's follow it.
A, right? The top building A.